This next story is a little crazy. A patient was supposed to get a simple IV antibiotic, routine, everyday things that we all do when we go to the hospital. If we're sick, we get antibiotics in the IV so they get to us more quickly. But this patient got it injected into their spine. Within seconds, the patient began seizing and having seizures, and then their heart completely stopped. This story all happened in a really busy hospital, and the patient had just had surgery and needed antibiotics to prevent an infection. They had two lines. They had one for the IV medications that goes right into a vein, and they also had one epidural line. And that typically delivers pain medication directly near the spinal cord. A lot of us are familiar with the word epidural if you had a baby and you might have had an epidural yourself. Both lines looked almost identical. They had the same color, same tubing, same connectors. The only difference was a small little printed label. So the nurse, who was obviously juggling multiple patients and had constant interruptions, grabbed the antibiotic and connected it to the wrong line. And then that moment, our routine medication became a critical emergency. So the patient suddenly said, "Something's wrong. I'm feeling weird." And then their body went rigid. They started seizing right there in their bed. The monitors all began beeping, alarms went off, heart rate was dropping, blood pressure started crashing, and within moments, the patient went into cardiac arrest. So the code team rushed in. They did chest compressions, emergency medications. The antibiotic is completely safe when given into a vein, and it had just entered the spinal canal, where it's toxic to our nervous systems. And after several tense minutes of CPR and medication, the patient's pulse finally returned. They were alive, but everyone in the room knew how close it had been. So the hospital launched a full investigation of this case, and this wasn't an isolated mistake. According to the Institute for Safe Medication Practices, there were similar mix-ups between epidural and IV medications, and they have caused multiple severe injuries and death. And there was one report an IV antibiotic was actually injected into the epidural line in a labor and delivery unit, just like this story, and it led to cardiac and seizure issues. And that single case basically helped spark nationwide safety changes. So after these events, hospitals across the country began switching to non-compatible connectors, so that basically epidural lines and IV lines can't physically connect the medication, that little bag, to both of them. So I'm Susie, I'm a pharmacist, and I help patients stay safe by catching medication errors before they happen. Because even one mix-up can change everything. In a case like this, my recommendations are simple but critical. Always label the lines clearly, bold, visible, and color-coded. Pause before you push. Take 5 seconds to confirm the route and the line. And if you're a patient or a caregiver, always ask questions. You have the right to know what's being given and where it is going before it's given. Because one wrong line nearly took a life, and one question could save it. Follow me for more.